tulajdonképpen azt hiszem, hogy nagyon kevesen értik meg, hogy miről van szó. És ezt akarom megmutatni, és aztán a második részben meg fogom mutatni, hogy mit tudunk mi, például Romániából, vagy egy másik országból, hogy lehet összehozni egy bizniszt a két ország között és a Szilikon völgyben. És mivel nagyon sok közgazdász van itt, majd be fogok mutatni egy pár grafikont, amit lesz egy website-ról szedtem le, ami majd megmutatja, hogy tényleg, hogy mit jelent a Szilikon völgybe az élet. De nem csak az ottani azoknak, akik oda akarnának költözni. Melyikek a problémák, és melyikek a nagy haszonok oda menni. Szóval Szilikon völgy így nézett ki 1900-ban. Szilikon völgyben nem volt más, mint gyümölcsfák és sivatag. Az első ipar, persze a gyümölcsipar. A legtöbb alkalmazott az a konzervgyárakban létezett. A Silicon Valley-nek tulajdonképpen az egy kb. 60 kilométeres hosszú völgy, ami a San Franciscoi repülőtértől kezdődik, és egész San Jose-ba megy, ami a legnagyobb város, 1 millió lakosa van. Sokan azt gondolják, hogy San Francisco egy nagy város, hát San Francisco-nak van kb. 700 000 lakosa. De tulajdonképpen az egész öböl, a golf, azt hiszem, nem? Igen, az egész öbölben van kb. 7 millió lakos, és az egész egy olyan, mint egy város. De persze, hogy a Silicon völgy, amikor ezen a részen van egy freeway, amit így hívják a 101-es freeway, és ott fejlődött az egész, majd meglátjuk, hogy mikor. 30 000 cég létezik Silicon völgyben. És szóval tulajdonképpen nem lehet megtudni, hogy hány cég van, mert minden nap 100 cég eltűnik, és más 100 cég létesül. Szóval nagyon dinamikus. Szóval hol kezdődött az egész? Minden a Stanford Egyetem körül kezdődött. És ez a Stanford Egyetemnek a bejárata. Az első egy újságíró adta a nevét Silicon völgynek 1975-ben. Addig nem létezett ez a terminológia. 1891-ben a Stanford Egyetem létesítve volt, egy nagyon gazdag család létesítette, és főleg azért, mert Amerikának a nyugati részén nem volt semmi egyetem, híres egyetem. Az egész egyetem New York között volt a keleti részen, és akkor elhatározták, hogy próbáljunk csinálni a nyugaton, és hogy úgy is értsék meg a nyugatot, nem csak a cowboyok laknak ott. Az egyetem körülött kezdett fejlődni a kutatás. 1903-ban az első rádió leadót létesítették egy úgynevezett Valdemar Poulsen, és 1912-ben felfedezték azt a lámpát, amit a régi tévékben volt. Itt lehet látni egy képet a rádió ősével. 1930-ban egy Frederick Terman nevű tanárt vették fel, aki nagyon elkezdte reklámozni a Silicon Valley-be a kutatást, és próbált cégeket hozni oda. És 1937-ben tulajdonképpen született ez a sztori, aki mindenki úgy tudja, hogy Silicon Valley-ben a legtöbb cég egy garázsban létesül. És ez volt a William Hewlett és David Packard, akik a Hewlett-Packard cég alapítói, akik egy garázsba dolgoztak egy ilyen outdoor simulator, ezt nem tudom lemásolni, lefordítani, és az első kliens az Walt Disney volt, és a fantázia filmben használta a technológiát. 1937-ben Sigurd Russell Varian, ez a cég létezik most is, felfedezték ezt a klistron tubust, ami tulajdonképpen a radárnál van használva. Varian cég létezik most is, ez a Varian Associates. Alkalmam volt a céget látni, amikor a román királyi család volt ott, és tulajdonképpen átváltoztak a radár és a katonasági rendszerektől az egyik legjobb röntgengép, amit a rák elleni használnak, egy ilyen írtó komplikált technológia. Az érdekes az, hogy ez a cég sose küldött semmit Kínába, hogy mindent Amerikában gyártanak, Palo Altóban. Nagyon fontos cég ez a Stanford Research Institute, a SRI. Ezt 1946-ban létesítették Stanford Egyetem mellett, és ez volt az első non-profit kutatási központ a világon, ami az egyetemen kívül volt. Létezik most is, csak akik használja a Siri-t, az Apple-ben, az a robot, azt ott csinálták a technológiát sokkal későbben, de onnan indult. Ezek nem adnak el semmit, tulajdonképpen kutatást csinálnak, csak az emberek megkapják a technológiát és építenek cégeket fel. Ez volt a Varian. Persze meg lehet látni a garázs mellett, van egy felirat, ahol lehet látni a Hewlett Packardnak a garázsát. Az első ipari parkot létesítették ott, 1951-ben, ugyancsak Stanford mellett, a Stanford Industrial Park. És az első cégek, akik beköltöztek oda, Varian Associates, amiről beszéltünk, volt a General Electric, az persze nem onnat van, de csináltak egy laboratóriumot ott, és volt az Eastman Kodak, ami az is az Milwaukee-ban volt, de létesítettek ilyen kutatási központokat. 1952-ben IBM odavitte az első 100 alkalmazottját. IBM persze az létezett nagyon rég a cég, de megnyitotta a szilikonvölgyi fiókját. És 56-ban kezdődött az egész elektronikai fejlődés. Persze hallottatok William Shockleyról, aki az MIT-ból jött, ő felfedezte a tranzisztort. És elköltözött Szilikonvölgybe, és ott a Robert Noyce Gordon Moore-ral együtt, akiről még fogunk sokat beszélni, létesítették az úgynevezett Fairchild Semiconductor. És tulajdonképpen ott dolgozott Andy Grove és Grove András, amikor kijött Magyarországra, először velük dolgozott. 1958-ban NASA megnyitott az Ames Research Center-t, ami létezik most is. És 1968-ban először mutatták be az egeret, a komputer egeret, ugyancsak a SRI-nél, a Stanford Research Institute-nál. 1968-ban egy páron a Fairchildról elmentek és létesítették az Intel. Köztük volt persze Andy Grove. És Gordon Moore volt az első, aki elnevezte, egy nagyon érdekes magyar neve van, a Venture Capital, kockázati tőke. Szóval a Gordon Moore elnevezte nem Venture Capital, hanem Vulture Capital őket. Ez persze ez Shockley. Na most az egyik, ez a Gordon Moore, aki tulajdonképpen volt egy törvénye ami azt mondta, hogy a tranzisztorok száma, amit egy chipre lehet tenni, az minden évben megduplázódik. Szóval ez volt az, ami a created a miniaturization of this technology, és megengedi nekünk, hogy egy ilyen telefonunk legyen. És ez persze ez Andy Grove, aki ott lakik, Los Altos Hillsben lakik, és van egy utca, aminek másik neve van, Cresta Streetnek nevezik, de mindenki úgy ismert, hogy a Fairchild Lane. Ott laknak a légi Fairchildi alkalmazottak. 1971-ben fedezték fel a floppy diszket. 73-ban jelent meg az 5008-as CPU processzor. 1973-ban tulajdonképpen megszületett a biotech ipar. 1974-ben a Park Centerben, amiről fogunk beszélni, meg a Xerox cégnek a kutatóközpontjában először megjelent a Graphical User Interface, amit most láttunk a komputeren. 1975-ben megkezdődött az Apple. 76-ban Steve Wozniak és Steve Jobs létesítették az Apple Computert, és meggyártották fából az első Apple One. Ők Cupertinoban laktak, Steve Wozniak létezik, ugyanabban a városban lakik, ahol én lakom, és látják, van egy Apple üzlet, megjelenik, van egy ilyen, hogy hívják azt egy olyan, amire egykerekű, kétkerekű mesén megjelenik. Segway. Szóval így láthatod az utcán Steve Wozniakot. Ez a ház, ahol ugyancsak egy garázsba építették meg az első komputert, és ez az új Apple. Szóval abból a garázsból tulajdonképpen ezt építik most, Cupertinoba. Én láttam egy héttel ezelőtt, még nem néz ki így, ez azt hiszem, hogy a világon a legdrágább épület lesz. Nagy cirkusz volt vele, mert az ember lezártak egy egész utat. Szóval ez Cupertinoban van, közel San Josétől. És hogy beszéltünk a Xerox Parkról, a Xerox cég mindenki hallott erről a cégről. Amikor kommunista időben ez volt a gépek, amikhez nem lehetett hozzájutni, mivel csak az igazgató engedett valakinek, hogy kopírozzon egy papírt. Nem volt szabad. Tehát Xerox felfedezte ezt a gépet, és abszolút nem érdekelte őket semmi más. Csak azt akarták, hogy ezt a másoló gépeket gyártották, és tulajdonképpen az egész Amerikában ezt adták el, nem volt kompetíció. De annyi pénzük volt, hogy létesítették ezt a Park kutatóközpontot, ami Palo Altóban van, és ők voltak az elsők, akik meg egy olyan céget létesítették, ahol nem kellett ülni egy irodánál, voltak párnák, persze ez a 70-es években volt, akkor meg volt engedve nekik, hogy smoking other stuff outside. És egy csomó dolg jelent meg. A céget nem érdekel, Xeroxot nem érdekelte, hogy ezt eladja, mert annyi pénzük van, nem érdekel semmi más technológia a másológépeken kívül. És ők fedezték fel, akik a komputeresek, a Object-Oriented Programming-ot, Smalltalkot. Megjelent az első magánkomputer, amit így nézett ki, előtt, a Microsoft előtt, és ami az érdekes volt, hogy ez tulajdonképpen arra volt építve, azért csinálták így, mert ők csak dokumentumokat tudtak. Ők nem gondolták, hogy semmi más lehet a komputerrel csinálni, csak hogy vannak dokumentumok, és lehet írni velük, és meg lehet módosítani. És azért ez volt az első komputernek így nézett ki, nem így, ahogy meg vagyunk szokva. És ők létesítették ezt a what you see is what you get. Szóval először volt az, amikor most már erre vagyunk megszokva, amikor Wordon dolgozunk, hogy amikor valamit cserélünk, nem azt látod, hogy mi történik. De ők csinálták ezt. Persze hallottatok az internetről, az úgynevezett Bob Metcalf ugyancsak a Xerox-ban dolgozott. Ugyancsak a GUI, meg ezeket, és úgy azt mondják persze, hogy Bill Gates és Steve Jobs is mind a ketten látták ezt, és onnan hozták az ő komputerekre. Xerox sose adta el ezt a technológiát, de mindenki lemásolta. Az érdekes, ezt felhoztam, mivel hogy ebből az elektronika és ez a Silicon völgyből technológiákba ide jutottak most. Szóval ha nézed a cégeknek a kapitalizációt, nem tudom, hogy megyek magyarul, szóval az értéke a tőzsdén, Apple a leggazdagabb cég a világon, 742 milliárd dollár értéke van, és ha elgondolod, hogy egy Boeingnek 101 milliárd értéke van, akkor látjátok, hogy a világ a játékokra 7-szer többet fizet, mint repülőkre. Minden cég, amit láttok, ott vannak a piros cégek, ezek a klasszikus cégek, ez mind a másik. Microsoft az Seattle-ban van, nem a Silicon völgyben, de láthatjuk az értéket az összes cégnek. Tesla, ez az új gyerek, azoknak az értéke az 31 milliárd dollár. Yeah, I would like to notice Mr. Consul from the US Embassy. Hopefully Andy will translate to you.
Yeah, that is real help. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Át lehet hallani angolul is, hogyha...
Tessék?
Át lehetne váltani angolul is, hogyha megértem.
So, át lehetne? Ha átváltok angolra, okay mindenkivel? No, so I will speak to English. I will speak in English. You know why? Because Andy doesn't understand all the Hungarian that I do. So yeah, better I say directly in English. So the other technologies which were invented, everybody knows about databases. So the first technology was created in 1970 at IBM Almaden Center, which is near San Jose. In 1977 was created Oracle. Larry Ellison actually took the technology from Berkeley, and he had this idea. Initially it was a consulting company, but they had this idea to create these databases. So created one of the biggest companies in the world. 1982, SUN was created, which means Stanford University Network. So initially it was a project to link together all the computers of the university. And then the two founders actually left and created SUN. The interesting thing is, this shows another model, how the university itself was actually helping the entrepreneurs to start their businesses. And even now, the university has a few business accelerators where they take the students with great ideas. There are a few of them, and they give them funds to start their businesses. 1984, Cisco was created by Leonard Bozak and Sandra Lerner, which is one of the biggest infrastructure companies in the world for the internet. And in 1989, at IBM, was the first result of something which will be called later the nanotechnology. which is the technology which is even going at even smaller dimensions than the regular chips were doing. Also at Almaden Research Center. I didn't put in this, but most of the older generation with here remember the Winchester drives. Well, the Winchester drive was created at Almaden Research Center. And why it's called Winchester? Because in San Jose, there is the Winchester mansion. The Winchester family was the family who created the rifles. No? And then it was one of the Lady Winchester built this mansion for the software people. It's given in the architecture books. He built a building without architecture. So she has 157 rooms, and nobody ever visited her. So the rooms are like the windows are on the floor, and the doors are on the walls, so or on the ceiling. So it's the example of building something without architecture. She had only one visitor, which was a US president, I don't know the name. He came to her mansion, it's on Winchester Road in San Jose, came and he made a big mistake to come on the main road. And the only person who was allowed on the main road was Lady Winchester. So the servants told him, I'm sorry, Mr. President, you have to go on the back road. Only Lady Winchester can come here. So then the president left. So she basically died without any visitors. You can visit the mansion now, but I wanted to add it because I was intrigued also why we knew that hard drive, that the first hard drive that I worked was called Winchester, and actually the name comes from the Winchester mansion and was created in all these things that I'm talking about. If you ever go to Silicon Valley, send me an email or call me and I'll take you to the Computer History Museum where you will see all these things. Now we go to the newer age. So everybody knows browsers, portals, obvious Google. Well, in 1993, Jim Clark hired Mark Andreessen, and they created, to found Mosaic Communications, which created the first browser. And is the predecessor of Netscape Communication. Netscape was the first browser. Now, why is so important? In 1994, Yahoo was founded by Jerry Yang and David Filo. Now, this is very interesting, and I was already there, so I'll tell you a story with this, which is pretty funny. So in 1995, when Netscape went public, IPO, its initial public offering. Now, when a company goes on the public market, then they start to sell shares, and the investment bankers establish the price, the first price, which was established at $28 a share. So by the end of the day, the price was $75. It was unheard of on the New York Stock Exchange, something like that. So the price of Ford was fluctuating $2–3 in a year. So it was all like this. So in my opinion, this was the moment when the hype was created about the internet technologies. Because before the internet, why was I investing in a factory was manufacturing a bottle? Because I like the quality of the bottle, so I said if I give money, these guys are good, they do a nice bottle, and if I give them money, they make more bottles, so I can get a little money back. Now, with the internet, people didn't really understand what that is initially, but it was very cool. So the people had money, the economical situation was pretty okay. They started to pour money into every company which had the name internet in it, got a lot of money, even if they didn't have products, even if they didn't have any income. You had to have internet in your name. So, to come back in my experience with this, how much time I have? I can talk to you 3 hours, but what's the time?
30 minutes from now.
I have 30 more minutes? Okay. So basically, I had, at that time I was working at an investment firm which was called Barclays Global Investors. These guys, for those familiar in the stock market, they were the creator of the index funds. So anyhow, I was there and we needed a programmer. So I got a resume of a guy who worked at Chernobyl. So I said, this is a pretty bad resume. I mean, how can I hire the guy with the factory blew up? So I have an interview with him. He was an extremely smart guy. He was a physicist, but he was a programmer. So I said, look, I can't hire this guy because he's, how the Americans call it, overqualified. It's too good for what we were doing. So the guy left. We didn't hire him. He returned in 2 weeks. Actually, it was a few, it was before Netscape went public. He came back in 2 weeks to me. He said, well, thank you very much that you didn't hire me. Because I was parallel interviewing with this company called Netscape. So I got 3,000 shares, options to buy 3,000 shares. So I became a millionaire because you didn't hire me. So, 1999, Kleiner Perkins and Sequoia, which are two VC firms, invested in Google. And obviously 2000 came and the balloon blew up. So that was a big thing. I mean, probably 50% of the companies in Silicon Valley disappeared. So it was this so-called terminology that most of the buildings that you saw, they built amazing buildings. Everybody had so much money because all these guys who were just heard about the internet, they put the money. These guys went public and they started to build these mansions and bought this super expensive furniture. Was a company, I remember, it was one of the first internet hosting companies. When you went there, the first row in front were only Ferraris. So they had all this thing. So what happened, these buildings actually became so-called see-through buildings. So it was empty. So it became the terminology, the see-through building. And this took a lot to recover. But anyhow, this changed the investment world forever, because from there on, even now, companies are not investing anymore in serious investment. I'm talking about VC investment. They don't invest in companies. They invest in two types of companies. If they do something extraordinary, which is disruptive, so-called disruptive technology, or they invest in something which proves that makes money. So, 2006, Google bought YouTube with 1.6 billion. If you see, the numbers are just increasing. The billions became like millions before. Why? Because in all these things, the hype intervenes. So now people, plus the people in US started to invest more and more on the stock market. Everybody almost in the US who has a pension fund is invested in the stock market. So they basically, you build your pension fund and he started to buy Google because it sounds cool. It's obvious this is the good case, but people bought companies which sounded cool, like one of the Webvan. Webvan was a company which created the online ordering for groceries. They had vans everywhere. People invested in it, they went bankrupt in 2 weeks after 2000. So another historical moment is 2007, when Apple launched the iPhone, which basically changed the whole thing. So now the kids don't want anything else but Apple products. This is the genius of Steve Jobs. Now, to go a little bit to Romania. So, to conclude what happened in Silicon Valley, it was an agricultural place, and then the university existed. They created the university. Then the university, around universities, they created these labs. And then the university started to support the startups to start with their ideas. Something which I didn't mention, the networking. So the networking is one of the most important things. If somebody asked me, I had once an interview and they asked me, tell me something special about Silicon Valley. And my story is that I live in a place that is a swimming pool. It's a complex. And I don't know my neighbors by name, which is also a Silicon Valley. I lived there for 18 years. I don't know what their name is. So that's another characteristic. Everybody's transient. They come and go. And I go in the swimming pool and I see a guy swimming there. So I start talking. In Silicon Valley, when you go, the first question is, what do you do? So he asked me, what do you do? Well, I work on software. I said, what do you do? He says, I develop a technology which basically is used for a singer. So when they sing and they sing a bad note, we correct it before it's heard by the audience. So that's what I said. Silicon Valley is basically a place, probably unique in the world, when you meet somebody and you hear the most crazy ideas that you can imagine. And they feel very natural to tell you about this, and you can start the discussion about how you do it and all these things. So networking, and something appeared many times, the money. So we mentioned venture capital, and you will see some statistics. The fact that all these people who made some money with these companies, they created these investment instruments, which is a venture capital firm. Well, the venture capital firm, how that works, is like an investment company. Before, initially the people were keeping the money in the bank. No, initially they were keeping the money under the bed. Second, they put it in the bank. They made very little profit on it. Then it came the investment concept, and VC is basically what? Investment in ideas. So a VC firm has two sides. It has the buy side and the sell side. The sell side is when they sell the ideas in order to get money from the investors, usually very rich people. So they created the pool of money, for example, $100 million, and they have the buy side where they have experts in different domains which are selecting the companies which will be invested in these $100 million. Usually, I will tell you some statistics about, it's an investment company. On the average in Silicon Valley, their return rate is about 11%. But many of them are negative returns. So, Romania. Romania, if we talk about IT, because I'm in IT, you guys probably are from different other industry, I followed IT very closely. And IT was the easiest business to start. Why? Because first of all, the corruption, the totally flawed legal system couldn't stop you to export your intelligence. You didn't have to send boxes, no, because you had the infrastructure to send your product outside, and nobody will stop you at the border. Where is your paper? Where is your stamp? Now that's why it happened. Plus the talent, the local talent. People through the internet, they were up to speed with the technology like anywhere else in the world. So they started a lot of companies. Everybody, let's do outsourcing. In 1998, the difference of the salaries between a programmer in the United States and the programmer in Romania, it was about 10 to 1. I mean, 10 Romanians for one in the state, which changed a lot. At this point, I think it's about 3-4 to 1. And then everybody was doing outsourcing. And then it were a few people, very smart people, who started companies that started to think about product. Which was the first product in Romania which came to the people's mind? Romania was full of hackers. So I remember, I didn't tell you what high school and what happened, but anyhow, somebody told me, if you want a Swiss watch, I can get you one. because even the high school kids, sometimes they could go in the computer, they were hackers, and ordering Swiss watches. So the first industry which started was the antivirus. And who were the two main guys here was Radu Georgescu with Jacquard, and was Florin Talpeș with Bitdefender, which became the most known brand in IT in Romania. So by far it's the best known brand. Radu Georgescu in 2003 sold the company to Microsoft and became the Microsoft antivirus. They moved his team to Seattle. Radu stayed a little bit and then he left. So, but this went in the press. The acquisition price was about $20 million. Which $20 million in the Silicon Valley standards now is nothing. So then, but this ended up in the press. And young people, entrepreneurs, started to understand that doing outsourcing is basically no difference from doing like a carpenter factory. No, because you are paid by the hours you work, mostly. The key of the software, I call it the traveling pigeon business, because that was the big thing in Cluj when I grew up. So kids had pigeons, they went to the market, sold it, went home, the pigeon came back and sold it again. So the same is software, only actually you can sell it, still have it. No? So that's the key. So that's how you can grow your income exponentially. So this showed them this model, and I consider 2003 was the model when the Romanian mentality changed. Of course, it was not very spread, but now, so it was, Radu Georgescu started the next one, which is e-payment, which was acquired by Nesper. It's a South African company which created PayU. You have the PayU systems, you know it. This is an interesting case. Samify. There are two young programmers from Iași, I think. They had an idea, something with Twitter. Twitter came up. They were very excited about Twitter, and they came up with an idea to create a service, because it's all this noise on Twitter, to subscribe to different things. And when you come in the morning, you know what's your interest, tells you what's going on in your interest, and you have the summary of the events. So these two kids wanted to come to United States. United States doesn't have even now a policy to support people coming from abroad with ideas. It's extremely complicated to get a visa. In US, there is a law, there is a specific visa for investor visa, but the investor visa you have to bring in money, and the process takes months and months, because there is a law which tells you that your business has to be in an area where the unemployment rate is with a certain percentage less than the average. It's extremely complicated. I had a chance in a different contact to see at the Homeland Security how a file like that looks for one of our applications of our software. So there is no investor visa. Now these two kids went to Canada. Canada put them in an accelerator in Canada, and they asked the Canadian, okay, but what's with my visa? So, well, we don't know exactly what we'll do with you. Just stay there and work, and we'll figure it out. So they got into a trouble with visa. Meanwhile, there is an organization in Silicon Valley called C50, which is C100, sorry. They put together 100 mentors with successful entrepreneurs from Canada to help the people in the accelerators in Canada. So they brought them through this program to Canada, to Palo Alto. They found an investor, invested in them. In about 6 months they sold it to Twitter. But in this time the kids didn't have the visa problem solved yet. So in Canada, after they were acquired, it ended up in the newspapers. Big thing about them. Actually, it was a Business Week article a week ago about this. And his name, one is Cristian Strat, the other one is Mircea Păsoi. And these kids basically Canadian SEB created an investor visa, which was implemented last year. So last year when you went on Silicon Valley on 101, said you want to create your business, come to Canada. So they have something for entrepreneurs. US doesn't have it yet. So this is the story. They basically, through their success, influenced the legislation in Canada. Library. This is a Cluj success. So this kid is Andrei Dunca. Andrei Dunca started this company in very complicated ways in Romania, and he ended up moving it to London, and he was acquired by Facebook with 400 million. Now everybody when hears this was acquired, why? Andrei Dunca made 400 million. Now, so usually the founders of these companies who get investment, they make about 6 to 8% of the value that you see there. Still a lot of money. So Andrei, this is one of the successes. Fusion is an interesting case. This is a guy from Alba Iulia, Radu Rusu, who had a few startups. He worked at CRE, not CRE Romania, CRE Stanford. And he basically has an app that you can download, which is revolutionizes the 3D images. So you take your iPhone, you move it around, builds the 3D image, so you have this, you can rotate around the image. He's a very cool guy. If you look at that video, this one, which you will see an interview with him. He tells his story, how he started working for free for the Museum of Alba Iulia, and then he went there. Tidemark. Tidemark is an interesting story. It's a company financed by Andreessen Horowitz. They created, this is for economists, not economists, more finance people in the enterprise. They collect different data from the company, build a model, and they give you optimization ways. Detect, it's artificial intelligence, a lot involved. They came up with an Excel version and launched it a few weeks ago. The guy is Christian Gheorghe. His story is funny because he was a cab driver in New York and worked for months and months until he met a guy who was an investor, and they started to talk, and he said what he was doing. There are a lot of stories like this, like the networking and the luck to meet somebody, and then basically they build this company which is extremely successful. This one, Databricks. Databricks is also Andreessen Horowitz investment. They are revolutionizing the search. They have something which is more sophisticated than the Google search. There are the founders, there are two guys, one from Berkeley, Romanian, the CEO, and the CTO is from MIT, who moved to Silicon Valley. You can look at their VectorWatch. VectorWatch is the latest investment of Radu Georgescu. Radu Georgescu, I didn't talk about Avangate. Avangate was a platform to sell software. He sold it last year to investment hedge fund called San Francisco Partners. VectorWatch, Radu Georgescu is launching in August in the United States competition to Apple Watch, the intelligent watch. The advantage is that this watch is designed by an Italian in Milan. They found a luxury watch designer. The watch cost $199. Comparison with the Apple, I was in an Apple store. The Apple watches start at $400 and end at $20,000. You can buy platinum smartwatches. I don't know if you're a smart person buying that one. The watch will be smarter than you. So anyhow, VectorWatch, and the big thing is that watch has to be charged only once a month. The Apple Watch, you have to charge it every day. The next one is CoinZone, also Radu Georgescu. So you see this notion, I hate that term because it's overused, the serial entrepreneurs. But many of these people, even if they became super rich, they can't stay still. They are still, they have to create something. So that's almost like it's a virus. You can't get out of it. So CoinZone, they created the infrastructure for Bitcoin, which was approved by the European Bank. Their competition, interesting, Radu came to the States and he said, look, I'm looking for a major investment here. Do you want to, I said, look, you want to talk to Ben Horowitz? And I tell you how I know Ben Horowitz too, because it's related to Cluj. And I said, look, I can send him, not to him, to his, this right-hand guy who does the selection, not to him. He said, I send you this CoinZone. And they said, no, we cannot because we have a similar company called CoinServe, which is in San Francisco for the US market. They can't invest in two companies which are in the same domain. So, okay, Ben Horowitz, liaison with Cluj. I wanted to tell you how you do business between Silicon Valley and Cluj. Very simple, play tennis. So, it's nothing complicated. So I was playing tennis in a club where I live, and a friend of mine that I played tennis with him, he was walking up, I was in a set, he said, George, I want to talk to you about something. So what? She said, when you finish, we'll talk, I want to open an office in Cluj. Okay. So I go and I talk to him. It was a guy who was the head of IT at Opsware. Opsware was a company, for those who are in the IT sector, they are basically competed that time HP Opera, which is a network monitoring system. Anyhow, he said, let's open in Cluj. So we came to Cluj, we created the Opsware office. It is in the Maestro building, now it's called Hewlett-Packard, because Hewlett-Packard acquired them. So they have about 300 developers. But that's what I mean. This is an example that doesn't matter how much you prepare stuff. It's a lot of things, the networking is super important. All the time talk, you never know when the information that you hear or somebody hears about you will be important. 10 minutes. Okay, so the new companies, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everybody knows Facebook because you take your dog to work. They created this culture that you can take your dog, your grandmother, whoever you want to work. You can eat and drink how much you want, but you work 20 hours. You know how much costs a programmer hour, a good programmer hour in Silicon Valley? $150. How much would cost you to bring your whole family, to feed your whole family at Facebook? $100. And these guys work extra 7 hours because said, you wanted to go home to see your dog? No, bring your dog and work for me. So everything looks really cool, the environment is cool, but it has a big business in it. They make these kids to stay at work all the time. They have gyms, swimming pools, whatever. But if you don't work, you are gone. The new buzzwords, artificial intelligence, data analytics, big data. Nobody really knows what big data means, but it sounds very cool. So if you go now, there are 1,500 conferences with the big data. I don't think too many people have big data. Big data came from actually the big application related to the e-commerce. Now you take all the logs, who is visiting your site stuff, or you have sensors of complex processes in the world, NASA stuff, a lot of data comes in. And you don't have the power to deal with classical technology. So that's the big data. Obvious, a big thing is clean energy. There are a lot of startups in clean energy, and the big thing is now with batteries. So fight for who creates the best battery. That is not Soviet. Tesla is a great car, cost $120,000, the higher end, replaced the Porsche. Now all the cool guys have Teslas, not Porsche. And before Tesla, they had that horrible, ugly car, the Toyota, the little Toyota, whatever it's called. That was because it was the first hybrid car, but initially the hybrid cars were very ugly for some reason. So they had to do the electrical car to be really ugly, to be different than the other ones. Now Tesla came with the idea, let's make a luxury one. But the battery, it's probably They have two. One is 250 miles autonomy only. Big thing, drones. Well, the drone industry is huge. The problem is drones industries doesn't have the legislation to support it. And here you have all these aberrations which happen. People flying drones at the White House, people flying drones at the airports. So, but they have extremely interesting applications. Obviously there is biotech. Interesting is water desalinization. California goes through a terrible drought for the last 5 years. There was no rain. The level of snow this year was about 10% how it used to be. And then now first time they had projects to do water desalinization. Now they started really to do it. And I just read an article. They have a big partnership with the Israeli companies who have apparently the most efficient desalinization in the world. I said, batteries? And this is the funniest, the Uber. So it was on LinkedIn, they appeared this thing that the most successful companies in the world have no employees. Uber. Uber doesn't have an employee, no? They all just bring together and people are, but it's semi-legal even in the US. So for example, Uber is not allowed to go to the San Francisco airport. So you can take it, and he has the phone on the dashboard. You get close to the airport, I have to take it down. Because if they see me, they will find me. But Uber pays them the fine, which is $1,500. So they have in the contract that if they catch you, Uber will pay. Uber has $1 million. They say the richest social network company, the richest content company in the world has no content. It doesn't generate the content. No, Facebook. Facebook makes money from content, but in fact the content is created by you, that you are using it. Okay, so a few stats. I will not insist too much. I recommend you, because you are economists, look at this website. It's a research, a non-profit research group in Stanford, and you will see a lot of stats there. So, I said, again, the Silicon Valley ecosystem consists of universities, money. Sand Hill Road is the most expensive road in the world for rental space. There are the VCs there. Now this is very important to remember. I get a lot of Romanian companies, let's take me to a VC to get some investment. You have to know that the VCs from there invest locally for businesses which have an effect globally. Okay? So, why? Because they don't want to go to Romania to look how is the legislation in Romania. If you want me to look at you, bring your company here. And not your company. Bring your front end of your company. You can make your product there, but bring to launch it in the United States. If you want investment. Hold on. Okay, you have the big companies which basically have their own accelerators. They fund young entrepreneurs with ideas. Why? They don't do it for love. They want to find technologies very cheap and to integrate it with their own. So that's their main reason. This is the good one. There is a hidden one. Many companies do this just to recruit people. So they find, oh, I have a great idea, cool. Come on in my accelerator. They give him $100,000 and then they hire them. So I talked about networking. This is very important. You have to understand, Silicon Valley will not be created at the Cluj Innovation Center. But Mr. Mayor says that. That Mr. Mayor, I heard him, will create Silicon Valley and Cluj. No, you cannot do it. I mean, it's a political bullshit. You can create innovation centers, but it's called Transylvania Valley, or call it anyhow. Why not? Because you don't have the money. I mean, you cannot create Silicon Valley with billions of dollars that you will see. And then, The best thing is the so-called best of two worlds approach. What do we have in Cluj? We have a tremendous talent. Now the people are extremely talented, technical talent. What we don't have in Cluj for launching a business, we don't have the business knowledge to launch the stuff globally. And then you have to take the best of the two worlds. Do your business development in the US and do the development here, which you have the technical talent. Here are a few information. I will jump over this. You will get access, you can get this PowerPoint and you will look yourself because I'm looking at the time. Yes, something I just want to say here which Andy likes this too, and I realized how important is that, is the diversity. There is this theory that I heard multiple times, that if you have a pineapple plantation and you have the jungle, if a disease comes in the pineapple plantation, will wipe out the whole thing. You never heard about a disease which wipes out the jungle. So that's the idea of diversity. And to tell you the mentality difference between United States and Europe. So I published that Vimeo that I showed you there. And I was the moderator, speaking with my same Somish English that you hear right now. And I published this video on, there is a site, there is a group called Stanford European Entrepreneurs. So I got very good feedback. The first feedback I got from a guy who, not to me, he puts a comment there. It's a shame how the Romanian diplomats talk with such a bad English. This is my English. And he writes there, we remember how the Romanian ambassador in London didn't know English at all. I don't know, something happened, I have no idea. I take that and I write him a message. No, I look at his Facebook address. The guy was from Germany. He was a Romanian guy from Timișoara. And I sent him a private mail. So I said, look, first of all, I'm not, I don't work for the Romanian Foreign Affairs. I'm a honorary counsel. We are volunteers. We are self-funding. We don't get any money from anybody. So, second, the difference, you grew up, you're in Germany. If you find somebody who speaks German with a bad accent, you are a Romanian immigrant and you tell me that my accent is bad, you have a disadvantage. In US, you have an advantage. The attitude in US, they tell you, if you have an accent, that means that you speak another language that I don't know. So, but this goes to diversity. In the moment when you get an international team, where you have Chinese, Indian, I mean, you name it, from everywhere. Nobody speaks perfect English, but they all have this, the power of creativity is much higher. And this, in my opinion, is one of the disadvantages in Romania, but it is changing because I see all these foreign students more and more, because the diversity is essential, because being in your environment, cultural environment, in this global world, you will have a handicap. So, this is my theory, so, okay, so let's see how we saw this. I just want to end the whole thing. Yeah, here is some interesting things. I just wanted to, one statistic. So, Andreessen Horowitz, one of the best VC firms in the world, their name is called A16Z. Why? Because there are 16 letters between A and Z. So that's the genesis of that name. So they see every year 3,000 startups. 3,000 startups try to get them to invest. They invest in 15. From these 15, 10 minimum will die, and 3-4 will prosper, and 1 maybe will become the unicorn. So the unicorn was the unicorn. So you want to have a 1000x. So So they measure the investment in how many times they make the initial investment. So the unicorn is 1000x. It looks like the unicorn's corn. So it's one, like their unicorn was obvious, was Google Skype. They bought Skype from eBay, and which really nobody understood why eBay bought Skype, because the lady was before going to retiring, and then she bought eBay before she left the company. And they ended up with Skype, and nobody knew what to do with it. So finally, Horowitz bought it with, I don't know, not only them, others too, and they kept it 1 year and they sold it with plus 2 billion. So that was pretty good, doing nothing. So, okay, let's see what else. Here you can see number of, there's their income. This is interesting. So how much cost the rent there? I mean, it's with a normal job you can't rent it. I saw an article today posted by a guy from Moldavia who said that $3,000 for a 2-bedroom is not enough anymore. $3,000 per month in Silicon Valley, in the good areas. So the rent is a huge problem, especially in San Francisco. Well, that's another time. If you're interested, I can tell you more. Houses are super expensive. Here it tells you what is the minimum income. You can't see it anyhow, but look at the site if you are interested. How many people can afford to buy a house based on their income? Which is the minimum income to get a house? So clean energy. It's a huge problem in Silicon Valley. There is no public transportation. Everybody drives the car. Why? Because United States, when the car industry was developing, they neglected the private transportation. Let's buy a lot of cars. There are places where there are more cars than people. So you will see, one of the funny things is, here it tells you how much, but this is really funny. You can't see what it is, but exactly, but you have different cities, and it tells you how many people are living somewhere and going to the other city to work. So you'll see there is no so-called rush hour on one lane on the freeway. They are both on rush hour. So everybody commutes somewhere, and you don't have buses. You have buses, but you can't rely on them. I mean, it's not that every 3 minutes you have a bus. There is a bus every half an hour. What happened on this, Google, for example, created a whole social problem, because the kids at Google didn't want to stay at Google. I mean, it's cool that I can bring my dog, but San Francisco has the very cool bars. So I want to live in San Francisco and come to work. So that's about 40 miles, and it can take from 25 or 30 minutes to 3 hours to get there. Depends on the traffic. And then Google bought these buses, which are called the Google buses. That was a big thing. They put Google on them. They gave the kids breakfast in the morning. So they went at 8 o'clock, they stopped in the bus station, gave them breakfast. The bus left, and then they had internet, they had to eat, they can work another hour. So they ended up in Mountain View, they worked, and that night the bus came back. But they didn't just stay there, they continued to program, so it's cool. So the problem, it was very good until the people in San Francisco who couldn't afford housing anymore, there were a lot of people evicted, they started to hit these buses with stones. And then Google took down the Google sign, and now are buses which are incognito. You don't know exactly what the bus is doing there. But that's the transportation is a very big problem. Now about Recognize is very small one. If you are interested, I can tell you more. We started in 1999 in the States. In 2000, we were the first company which was opened here by the US ambassador at that time. And the idea was to create a company for people who don't want to leave. And that's why we never used PFAs and bullshit like this to try to bypass the taxes. I wanted to be absolutely open, and people to make a good salary, and also to do stuff, interesting stuff. We had our great investment. We had about 3 companies that we failed. and lost a lot of money, especially with one of them. We are going for this best of the two world approach that I talked about. The last product, we have something, a platform, it's all developed in Cluj to extract data from unstructured documents. We are also in the big data movement, but we only the tool which allows you to combine the structured data with unstructured data. Who is interested, I can tell you more. Now, this is the last one. I am glad that Mr. Counsel is here because it's a project that I want to talk to the US Embassy also. So, for years, I am with a group, we have an organization called the Romanian American Business Network, and we saw the Canadian model, the C100, where they bring the companies who want to invest, who have good ideas, together with the experienced entrepreneurs who live in Silicon Valley. And we call this the pod, which is very funny because in Romanian means bridge, and in English means the pod, when you grow the little seed. So the vision of this is to basically to link Silicon Valley with Romania and to make this bridge using the experience of the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. You can read more about this. If you look at that video that I told you, we talk more about that. And all the countries have this. I mean, there is the Silicon Vikings, there is the, I told you, Czechs have one of these German accelerator. They all do this thing to bring together the talent, bring the best of the two worlds together. That's the message. Now the last one, I'm sorry, hopefully I'm not too late, but this is the last one. How I got into this whole thing actually, and how I became an honorary consul also. Once somebody asked me, look, there is a group of Romanians, business people, organized by the Chamber of Commerce, who are coming to meet American companies to do partnership at the Chamber of Commerce in San Francisco. So I said, George, do you want to go there? I said, sure, I'm going there. So I go there. There are about, that was years ago, so now it's better, but that was the trigger for me. That was probably 97, 98, and these people were from, one was from a chair factory, one was from milk, one was from glass. I mean, there were all these businesses. And we stay, we wait for the American partners. And finally, 5 guys show up. Wow, the Americans are here, we'll do great business. All 5 were from rental agencies who wanted to rent their apartments. So, what this says, don't rely on Chamber of Commerce to arrange your stuff. They will not do it. They will do it formally, because usually the Chamber of Commerce is there too how they work. They offer drinks and sandwiches to attract people. And then people go there not to meet a Romanian partner, you have to have a good sandwich and to drink a good wine. So, if you will ever participate to trips, what you have to do, you have to do your homework first. So what do I try to achieve finding an American partner? Now, what do I try to do? The Americans are much more open than the Europeans, okay? Don't go there with the first thing, wow, I do some very cool stuff, very cheap. You know how you can save so much money? No. You do extraordinary stuff. You have great quality at a very good quality price ratio. Don't use the cheapest to sell. They will not buy from you. Because they have China is much cheaper. Ask for help. Romanian consulates, okay, some of them can help you. US consulate, they have an office, you can go preparing a trip, send them an email, say, look, we go there. I'm sure this is happening. I mean, I am looking from outside. And then, go to trade shows. For example, if you have associations of companies to do the same thing, you can get booths together. But don't go just to the trade show without preparing anything, because you will have no chance. The people go to a trade show, if you go to CB to Las Vegas, there are 15,000 companies. No, you have to prepare. You look who are the potential partners. Send them emails. Americans respond to emails. I mean, they have people who read the emails. Obvious, you have to learn how to write an email, because if you send them a 5-page email, you will not let them read it. You have to read how it's called the elevator pitch in the email, 5 lines. It said, I am producing a new type of window which has this and this property. I would like to talk to you because I have an interesting business idea. So you have to study the communication method with US, which is different from the Europe, totally different. Don't expect, in US is much less bureaucracy. The business partners in US are much more entrepreneurial than in Europe. The sales cycle is much shorter. And follow-up. That's very important. One of the big flaws of the Romanian companies, I'm not talking about you in person, in my experience, I connected you with other companies. They talk, okay, cool, we do this and this. Come to Romania, we have great wine. Excellent, come, we have this product. They don't do follow-up. So it's no more email. So then you have to send the email and make sure that what you promised the email in one day. First thing, when you get home, it was nice meeting you. We had this and this, summarize what you discussed. Let's follow up in the next future. Let me know what you think. So don't let it go, don't wait 3 weeks after the guy will remember. The guy in the US, he met another 200 companies until then. And that's it. Thank you.